I just saw a thing. Okay. Anybody else here speak Japanese? Can read it? Can anyone else here read it?
Sean is doing a maybe.
Maybe. Okay. This could be interesting though. It's for Beej and any other people who on set who speak Japanese. I'm not fluent, and I would never make that mistake.
Neither am I.
I have a story actually about that, and then we'll get to what this challenge is.
About how not fluent you are in Japanese?
No, but a friend of mine actually, he applied to go on JET.
Ah.
And he was working, so he was going to school, he was going to university. Yeah. And he would come home and he'd have to like go off to work his job.
Is
And
this friend originally from Medicine Hat as well?
no,
Okay.
no. So he'd have to go to do his job at night, and he'd get back and he'd be exhausted, and then do homework and whatever. But he's also trying to get into JET, and his mom thought that she would help, and saw the application forms out on the table. And was like, well, he really wants to go on this, so I'll help him by filling this all out. And so she filled out everything that she could manage to fill out on the form, and I have no idea what's on the form, and said, I filled out your forms for you. And he's like, okay, cool. Great, and he folded it all up and he submitted the thing and he went in for his interview and sat down. And so he was taking 400 level Japanese in university.
Yeah.
Right.
So he could conversationally speak.
Yeah.
But that doesn't even really register, I think, level 1 on a lot of like the JALT exams. Like there's like a lot more stuff you have to do if you want to like qualify.
Yeah.
Or whatever the exam is that you have to take. So anyway, they said, hey, having an interview, they're halfway through the interview, like, okay, so it says on your form that you're fluent in Japanese. And just, he's like, does it? I'm like, well, that's what it says in your form. He's like, all right, we're going to continue the rest of this interview in Japanese. He did not get into JET.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he had to explain to them, no, that's not. I think he tried to like do it as best he could, but he was like, yeah, so that got me out of JET.
Great. Oh.
So
Fill out your own forms. Like,
I took the N4 JLPT test like 2 or 3 years ago, and I passed it, but again, it was 2 or 3 years ago. So.
But that is like that. I've never taken any of these tests, and so I would probably never pass any of them.
I did Duolingo for a month or two.
Okay, cool.
So they have 5 levels. N5 is the lowest level. N1 is the highest, and so I did the second from the bottom.
Okay, cool.
And it's the tests are mostly comprehension, either reading or listening. They don't have you write or speak.
That's very
in those
interesting.
tests. At least not at N4 level.
Oh, that's really interesting. I didn't know that. The challenge is I'm majoring in Japanese and was wondering what were your best tips, tricks, and techniques for learning kanji. For me, trying to learn kanji was trying to identify things that it reminded me of when I looked at it, because it's all pictograms anyway. The best way I could find to remember stuff was whenever somebody would be like, okay, this is the derivation of this, right? We got this kanji, and they're mostly simple ones at like the Japanese 100 level. They're not just like 1, 2, 3, right? But there's a few past that, and it's like, this is how to remember what this one thing is. Like, I think, so hito, which is just, this person, is just like, and then like that. It's just a long stroke like that, and then another stroke like that off the side, and it's meant to be person. That's person, right? So now, dai is that, but with like a line through it, right? And it's kind of like this, and so the only thing I could think was, well, it must be a big person, is what you're probably thinking about.
Yeah.
And like inu, which is dog, and I think is like hito, but with a little thing in the corner, if I remember that correctly. And that's like, oh, because the little thing, that's hito, so it's person, and man's best friend is his dog, the little thing that's been added on to the. That's how I would like try to remember that.
Mouth's a big hole.
Yeah.
Just like door.
But like eye, which is also a door that you would see through, is actually like it's 3 boxes. Like it's a single rectangle. It's been divided into 3 spaces because the top is the top eyelid, the bottom is the bottom eyelid, and the one in the center is the actual eye itself. And I'm like, really?
Makes sense to me now.
Sure, why not?
Didn't make sense to me before I heard that, but now it makes perfect sense.
So that's kind of how. Oh, it's dye with Inu is dye with the little little thing in it, right? But that's the best tip and trick and technique I can think of is figure out what the derivation of it is, of whatever it is you're trying to learn. Learn how to read it, so like when you see it on site, you know exactly what it is. By just looking at sentences that have that stuff in it over and over and over again, and then just practice writing it. Just learn the right stroke order and just practice writing it so it sticks in your head.
Kind of the equivalent of root words in English.
Yeah, exactly. It's everything has to be kind of drawn in somewhere. What about you, Sean?
So I'm gonna plug a site called WaniKani, and I'll put the URL up on the overlay in a bit. It's like $5 to $10 a month US, and it uses a timing algorithm, which I'm very far behind on. But the idea is that it will bring up a new kanji or a radical, whatever element it's trying to teach you, right before your brain would forget it.
Oh, cool.
And apparently doing that and then increasing the time between helps long-term memory because you're being reminded of it right before it would be blanked out.
That's super
Yeah,
cool.
it's the same system used by Duolingo and Memrise. But there's also like free flashcard systems you can install for doing the same thing.
Yeah, and one of the things I like about the progression that WaniKani uses is that, like, if you were growing up in Japan learning Japanese, you would be learning easy concepts first. So, like, for example, I'm blanking off the top of my head, but there are kanji that are simple concepts, like for day or for colors, where the kanji themselves are complicated, like several strokes. But it's a simple concept because that's what kids are going to know. What WaniKani does is they start with low stroke kanji because they figure you're young adults, and you already know what these things are. So it's going to start you off on the easier kanji to learn rather than the easier ideas.
Neat.
Thank you very much. It's funny because I had never been to that site, but it sounds so familiar to me. Huh. All right, I'm going to mark that as complete. I'm also going to mark the turning the Night Watch logo into the DreamWorks logo. That's good. Thank you very much. I'm glad we've done this little exercise.
Can we get like some backing on the fisherman, because he doesn't really read against the dark blue as
Yeah.
is.
He's so small.
You can flip them over.
Small boy.
Can we get a shot of him on Kevin, maybe? Just to, like,